The purpose of this brief presentation is to explain the intervention process at Worthington Middle School. The first step is identification. There are many factors that astute teachers will note for students with school difficulties. This list is not all-inclusive, but it will give teachers an idea of what to look for students that are having struggles in school. One of the first students that we want to take a look at is somebody who is having lots of office referrals for behavior. This is a student that is crying out for intervention and extra help in order to get their behavior under control. In addition to behavior, another red flag is students who are failing multiple classes. A pattern of low MCA scores should also be a red flag to teachers. For example, a student who has taken 4 MCA reading tests and they've always been and does not meet the standards has something going on in reading. Another great identifier of kids who might need some kind of intervention services are those students whose parents come to school with concerns about their learning. Teacher observations are also another very accurate source of information for students who are struggling in school. Some other indicators are things like students who can't read fluently on below grade level materials. This is true because there is a very close relationship between fluency and reading comprehension, and if a student is struggling on really easy materials that their classmates can do, it's saying something bigger is going on with their reading skills. Students who can't comprehend basic information from texts that they have just read, that's another likely candidate for intervention. Students who cannot write a paragraph. By 5th, 6th grade, a student should be able to independently write a paragraph from a prompt. If they can't do that, again, we have a pretty basic academic skill that seems to be lacking. Maybe one final area we could look at is with math, and a student there might have trouble recalling basic math facts and problem solving. So you have 2 different things going on at the same time. These are all kids that we should be flagging for extra help. At the middle school, we divide our intervention into Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Tier 1, of course, is general education, and the first intervention is typically done by a student's team of general education teachers after identifying a struggling student. Each team has a math and reading interventionist that works with students at directed studies. Tier 2 is small group instruction, and students at this stage did not respond to the first intervention. Typically, the second intervention is done here in Tier 2. Tier 3 is our final stage, and students at this level are on the fast track for being referred. They may, for sure, they have had one intervention done. They are most likely to also have had a second intervention done. If not, the second intervention is completed here. These are students who have not responded to any of the interventions, and a special education referral is being considered. So those are our tiers. One thing we talk about with the assessment process is the research is telling us that students in RTI often make gains when they work with a teacher in a smaller group setting or a paraprofessional in a smaller group setting. And it's what I like to call a clean exit. This is a student that has responded well to that instruction. They've made some gains with their academic skills. They're closing those achievement gaps, and they probably don't need to be seen again. Another student that we look at is what I like to kind of call the revolving door student. This is a student that has skill gaps in many areas. Often this is a student who will be seen for reading. They make some gains, say for example in reading comprehension, but then they might come back later on to work on identifying main ideas. Or they can be a student that is first seen for math, and then after having some success in that math intervention, they rotate out and are seen for a reading intervention. Assessment is the final step. In assessment, students have not responded well to any of the interventions. Another factor to consider is that sometimes you do have students that are making gains, but the gains are so small that in all likelihood they're not ever going to close that achievement gap. And lastly, we have students who only seem to be able to make gains in that very intensive setting where they're working one-on-one with a teacher, or they're working with a teacher and there's just one other student in there. So they never seem to be able to get to that space where they are learning independently. I hope this gives you some ideas about how the intervention process works at Worthington Middle School. We have a number of teachers that are interventionists, and they will be happy to sit down with you and answer any questions that you have. They're also happy to help you come up with some interventions. Remember, any child that you have concerns about, you can take to our problem-solving team, and we'll come up with a plan to help you out.